Alright, I'm recording this on my phone because my camera battery's kind of dead. And this gives me a view my camera for vlogging doesn't. I've got a valve cover gasket. Beetlejuice, shut up! That's one of my dogs. I've got a valve cover gasket coming because it's been leaking some oil. And I'm pretty sure it's coming from the valve cover gasket. So I'm going to be replacing that today. And before to get to it, I've got to pull the radiators. So I figured if I've got to have them off, put fresh coolant in there anyways, might as well do a coolant flush. I have no idea if this thing is ever even happened. I can't find anything in the owner's manual, because I've never done it on this bike, about drain plug, for the cooling system, because that's my water pump up top. So what I'm going to do is pull that hose right here and drain it into here, and then once I get the coolant system drained, then I'm going to fill it with 50-50 mix of distilled white vinegar and distilled water, which I've already pre-mixed. Take it for a ride and then disassemble it for the valve cover gasket to get here. So I just drained the coolant out of my bike. That hose worked great. Didn't take it long at all. Just unscrewed the clamp, popped the hose. Fluid started flowing out like crazy. Once it started slowing down a little bit, I even opened the radiator cap. Didn't make much of a difference. This thing started flowing. And stood it up, drained the rest of it out. Pretty sure I got all of it. It says they hold about 1 liter from my understanding. And I just put the distilled water and vinegar in it. But this is what came out of my radiators. That's just nasty. I can only imagine what it's going to look like when the rest of it comes out. Maintenance, people, maintenance. I'll be back with the rest here in a little bit. Alright, I haven't drained the coolant or the flush fluid out just yet, because the bike's still pretty warm. What I've started doing is dismantling it, because my gasket did come while I was out. To get to this point, what I've done is taken the seat off, which that's easy to do. There's just a little D-ring on the back that you twist and the seat pops off. Then I remove the radiator shrouds, which you end up with the 3 bolts that you can see. That one. Okay, 2 bolts that you can see. And then when you lift the tank, there's 2 more. Those 2 on both sides. They're all 8mm. I make it a habit of putting bolts back where they were. That way it doesn't, I don't lose them, and I can remember where they went. And while I'm at it, because when you pull the radiator shrouds off, the radiator guards, which on mine are just the stock plastic ones for now, the bottom bolt comes out with it. So I just go ahead and take the top one out as well, pull those off, and my radiator shrouds are off. Then it's kind of hard, I might not be able to see, but tuck back there, that hole there, pull the bolt out, and you come around to this side, and this little guy, right, this is held on by the other bolt holding the gas tank on. Again, all 8mm. Then you get to this guy, which looks like that. That is a 13mm. And then you get a little hose clamp. You can use some needle nose. I've already pulled it off. And your hose is there. Make sure your fuel is shut off. And obviously you'll need to pull out your breather tube, which mine's like a mile long. And the tank is ready to lift. Once I get that off, I'm going to go to pulling the radiators off. And hopefully that's all I need to pull to get to the valve cover. And we'll go from there. Alright. I've got the valve cover, or I took the radiators off. And they're simple. I mean, pull a few hoses with the hose clamps. If you're wondering, yeah, you can use a flathead on that style hose clamp, or in this case I used a 6mm socket, and then you've got your 3 bolts for I'm missing one. I'll check in the antifreeze here in a little bit, because that's no, I remember what happened. That's the one that fell down behind the radiator shroud, or the fan, and yeah, okay. Anyways, got the valve covers off. They're not bad. They're 8mm sockets. On your front one, it's got your compression release, so you pull that off. That's a 10mm wrench. The only things I've used so far working on this are 8mm, or the biggest is 13 so far, and that was on that guy for the gas tank. 8s for these, and pretty much everything else. 10mm to thread that out, and then 6mm for the hose clamps. Now, the gaskets honestly aren't in that, they're not in bad shape. The bolts on this were pretty loose. So that may have been the case, but I've already got it off. I took them both off because I got 2 valve cover gaskets. Figured might as well replace them both while I'm doing it. Same as with the water pump housing. I had a gasket for it, so I figured why not replace it. It was pretty, I mean, it's pretty worn out. I mean, the front valve cover gasket where it was leaking, it's not really, I mean, it feels like it's in good shape. I mean, it's still pretty solid. But, you know, like I said, they were loose, and I took them off. I've got valve covers, gaskets, might as well put them on. I'm already this far into it. There's no sense in putting it back together with old pieces. I've also found that the bike came with the shaft ring, which that could be a good thing, because I think that may be leaking as well. I don't know if I'm going to get into that today. I'm just going to get this, put the new gaskets on, put it back together, fill it back up with coolant, check my oil level, blow the motor off, because she's been leaking pretty bad. I'm hoping that'll solve it. If not, then I'll have to replace the head gasket. I'm not familiar with these motors. Normally, I know if a head gasket goes out, you have coolant in your oil, and I haven't noticed that. My oil doesn't look milky, and I haven't been losing coolant. So I'm thinking that this valve cover is going to solve the problem. So yeah, we're going to work on that, and then after I'm done getting it back together, I'll explain what I did with the turn signal, since I didn't do that last time. Alright. She's mostly back together. Obviously, I haven't put the seat back on or the radiator shrouds for a reason. Seat's the last thing, obviously. The radiator shrouds, so I can see if I'm leaking anywhere. I just filled it with coolant. I got to burp the system. That's why the radiator cap's not on. It's a good thing I filled it before I put the radiator shrouds back on, because just like anything, I mean, you're bound to miss things. Everything went back together nice and easy. Started putting coolant in, and she started draining. Was like, why did what's going on? And started looking around. Noticed I forgot to tighten up this hose clamp and the adjoining hose clamp for those lines. I did see some of these lines could stand to be replaced. I'm looking at a full hose kit, silicone. I'm also noticing that some of these oil lines need to be replaced. Not the major ones, just the rubber ones, because they're dry rotted. I'm thinking maybe some of my oil leak was coming from one of the hoses tucked back in there. It's pretty dry rotted down around the end. But yeah, let's fire her up. I gotta come down here, turn it over to reserve because I ran it almost empty so I could do this. Pull my choke in. The choke's tucked back in that way. It's hard to see. Yeah, you can kind of see it back there. That's the hot start right there. Keys on, kill switch is off. I don't like the sound of that. I'm wondering if she's blowing oil from all that leaking. Oh yeah. She definitely needs oil, which I've got some. So yeah, I'm going to put some oil in it and see what happens after that. Okay, we're back. Got some oil in her. Let's try again. Let's try the hot start. Nope, she wants to be choked. They like it dirty once in a while. I think my starter's going out. shimmies. She's running. Got a couple ticks. Still getting a little bit of smoke, but that's to be expected. Got a lot of antifreeze and oil still built up on the exhaust. But I do believe she's fixed. Give her a little bit. Shook some out of there. Let's shut it down and explain some things. Alright, so what we got, today we did valve cover, both valve covers, water pump housing, gasket, and in order to do that I had to pull the seat. And this is, I'm going to try and do this in order. I had to pull the seat, the radiator shrouds, the fuel tank, the radiator, a few hoses here and there, and the compression release switch for kick starting it. Oh, I also did a coolant flush today. I'd say if you're any kind of mechanically inclined, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say for beginners, it'd be probably a 5. For somebody that's been working on vehicles for a while, has a basic understanding of what's going on, I'd say maybe a 2 or 3. I mean, it wasn't really difficult. And then you've got what I did the other day, which was install these turn signals, upgraded to LEDs. I can't remember the colors of the wires. I want to say one side was, you had brown for your negatives on both sides. Pretty sure, if I remember correctly. And one side, I want to say purple was your hot and green was your hot on the other, if I remember correctly. And if you're going to upgrade to LEDs, you're going to have to get resistors. I found that out the hard way, wired them in, and they were acting up. So those are the resistors right there. I really didn't have anywhere else to put them. I wanted to put them up out of the way so they, you really wouldn't see them. But if you don't put the resistors in, you'll turn one. They'll work all the way around except for when you go to wire the last one in. When you go to wire your last one in, it will be a you'll get a turn signal on one side, and then when you go to click the other side over, all 4 will stay lit. Or sorry, I take that back. When you wire the last one in, actually wired in, you'll get hazards with one direction. All 4 lights will flash. Turn it to the other side, they'll all stay solid. The reason I was thinking you get, one side working is when I didn't have the resistors, I left the left side completely wired in. The right side, I did not have the rear wired in. I had left turn signals, but no right. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, any kind of wiring knowledge, a 1. Not knowing what to do, having to look it up online, maybe a 3. There's not a lot entailed in it. You just wire your resistors in, you cross them from, or you cross your resistors from your hot to your ground, or your positive to your negative, or your, earth, or wherever you're at, your wire that's getting power, you bridge the resistor between it and your ground. And then you wire your LEDs to the corresponding hot and negative. Overall, I'd say what I did today, it was about how long it took? About 2 beers, because that's about what I want. Well, about 1.5 beers, because I still got half one sitting over there. The taillights, I rarely drink. I didn't drink the night I did those. It probably would have been a 3 or 4 beer because it was just irritating me. But yeah, that's that. If I missed anything, and you're curious on what I've done so far, I can't go into full detail about this bike. I'm still learning this bike. I don't know much about it. I just noticed that the thing's also an SXC. So not only is it an SMC, it's an SXC, which will make finding parts a lot easier. So yeah, there you go. That's on the 2004 KTM 625 SMC/SXC, I think it said, with the LC4 motor.